Well, as we near the presidential election, immigration is one of the key issues voters are talking about, including a proposed bipartisan border bill.
Fox 61 political reporter Emma Wulfhorst caught up with Connecticut's Senator Chris Murphy, who wrote the bill, and she asked him what the legislation would accomplish if passed. Emma.
Trump, though, obviously has influenced Republican lawmakers greatly. A major example here, killing the bipartisan border bill. We've heard a lot of talk about this both before and now after the debate, and you were one of the architects of that bill. Harris now committing on the debate stage to helping make that happen if she were in the White House. Break down for us, though, what would actually be changing at the border if some form of that legislation were to be passed?
Yeah, so I was proud to be the Democratic author of the bipartisan border bill. I worked for 6 months on that bill. People in Connecticut told me that, whether or not Connecticut is a border state, the border is still a problem. And that it doesn't make people in Connecticut feel good that there are so many people who, kind of skip the line and come into the United States while other people are waiting for decades to be reunited with their family or get work in the United States. The bipartisan border deal would have invested $20 billion in new security on the border. It would have totally reformed the asylum process so that no longer does somebody get to stay in the United States for 10 years while their asylum claim is being processed. We'd get most of those claims done in weeks, if not months, and it would give the president the power to shut down the border discrete periods of time when there are too many people crossing. Those three reforms would have likely gotten the border under control. Now, the president went ahead and implemented many of those through executive action. I'm not sure that he has the legal authority to do that, but he did it. And what we saw is that they worked. Crossings are way down. They're lower today at the Mexican border than they were during Donald Trump. And I'm glad that Kamala Harris is saying, let's pass that bill. Donald Trump killed it because he wants the border to be a mess, because that's good for him politically. Kamala Harris says, let's pass tough bipartisan border legislation. Again, a huge contrast between the two parties. And I was, glad to hear her talk about that bill that I worked so hard on.
To note, right now, the southern border is partially closed. Biden's new executive action this summer allowed immigration officials to deport most migrants without processing their claims. And the temporary ban is in place until the number of crossings reaches a much lower level. You can watch our full segment with Senator Chris Murphy. Be sure to watch our weekly policy show, The Real Story, which airs live Sunday mornings at 10. And all of our episodes can be found on our website and on the Fox 61 News app.